Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of DIY and Murder. In this episode today, I will be showing you how to make this beautiful fall wreath using Dollar Tree items, and I'll be doing a new style of a whodunit type of murder mystery story. I know this might not be everyone's cup of tea, so if you just want to see the DIY, I do have a video of just the DIY link down below. So let's get started. So today's story is going to be about 24-year-old Michelle Herndon. She was a senior in University of Florida in Gainesville. So she worked as a personal trainer on the side of being in school. And one day in November 2005, she ended up not going to any of her classes or any of her work, which was really alarming to the people because that was very unusual for her. So her fiance, Jason Doyle, drove from Miami to check on her. And when he went to her house, he looked in the window and he saw her, unfortunately, dead body there. So she was lying face down on the bed and she was dead 24 hours before he had found her. But the thing was really weird about this is there was no trauma to the body, no bruises, no wounds, no bleeding. There was no apparent sign of death. There was nothing really to indicate why this healthy-year-old 24-year-old should have died. And there was no fingerprints, there was no forced entry, there was no valuables taken, and there was no suicidal indication. So it was like really weird of a death. So they ruled out Jason Doyle, her fiance. He had an alibi, he was at work, and they were really baffled and confused with this because they didn't know. Usually people in the medical field, they're able to tell right away how a person died, and they couldn't. So after a closer look, the autopsy medical examiner noticed a tiny little hole in her left arm. It was smaller than a needle hole, so that was really unusual. They also noticed in the house that all the trash was taken out. So they went and checked her trash, like her big dumpster, to see if there was anything there, and they actually found a little bag of stuff from her house. So in that, what they found was this drug called propofol, which is basically an anti-breathing drug. This is used by anesthesiologists to help put somebody to sleep. They found some syringes and a butterfly IV, which is basically a very, very tiny syringe. So they went back to her body, and indeed she did die from a lethal dose of propofol. And when they tested the butterfly syringe, they did find some male DNA and Michelle's DNA in there, showing and proving that that syringe was used on her. And now they were starting to rule this as a homicide. So who done it? Who done it? So these propofol bottles, they have a national drug control number and a lot number. So if you're a medical professional and you are acquiring these drugs from the hospital, you have to put your employee ID because they are trying to prevent people from abusing taking drugs. So when they trace this back, it goes back to 30-year-old Oliver O'Quinn, who was a casual friend of Michelle's. And he also happened to be a nurse who had access to these drugs. Police then went to his house to question him and get some sample of his DNA to test for the syringe, and they found that he had gone. He had fled to Ireland with no intention of coming back, and it was really hard to get him back from Ireland. So they put pressure on the Irish media to put this, that there was a wanted murderer there. He ended up fleeing then to Africa, which Africa ended up giving him back to the authorities right away, and the US authorities. They were able to get a warrant to get a sample of his DNA, and lo and behold, yes, there was a match for his DNA on the syringe, because sometimes medical professionals, they put the syringe cap in their mouth and they leave their DNA behind, so they were able to get them. He ended up getting convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. But the big question is why? Why did this casual friend of hers end up murdering her? So what had happened is a lot of her friends thought that he had a crush on her. And that, their phone records show that he had been calling her like in a harassing amount, and he called her every single day for 9 days up until her death. So Michelle suffered from migraines as well, and propofol can also help with the migraines. So apparently he had told a cellmate that he had overheard her talking one day on the phone to somebody, and that she had been saying derogatory things about him and said to him about that he was an annoying little man. So this made him very upset. So what he concocted a plan and told her that if she ever gets a migraine headache, that he can come over to her house and help her with medication to get rid of the migraine. So he got the propofol and was ready. So one day when Michelle was having a migraine, she called him and he came in. So, she willingly gave him her arm to inject, thinking that she was getting helped for the migraine, but he ended up injecting her and killing her within seconds. So yeah, that's the story for today. I hope you enjoyed that and the DIY. Till next time, bye-bye.